Well, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has told Russia's Vladimir Putin that the war in Ukraine must end. Ramaphosa is part of a delegation of African leaders pushing for peace who met with the Russian president in St. Petersburg. They held talks in Russia after first traveling to Ukraine on Friday.
A warm welcome from President Putin as he greets the African peace delegation. During their meeting, he agreed to consider any proposal for dialogue. But the Russian president criticized Ukrainian leaders for rejecting peace talks.
It's not us, but the leadership of Ukraine has announced that they will not conduct any negotiations. Moreover, the current president of Ukraine signed a corresponding decree prohibiting these negotiations. Therefore, I understand your concern, I share it, and of course, we are ready to consider any of your proposals. But we do not refuse negotiations. The Ukrainian side refused them. They even issued a decree. Well, what do they want from us?
The high-level delegation from 7 countries was led by South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, who told Putin the war must end because the conflict has weighed heavily on African economies and people.
And we are here to communicate a very clear message that we would like this war to be ended. We say so because this war is having a negative impact on the African continent and indeed on many other countries around the world.
A day earlier in Kyiv, the African leaders called for de-escalation on both sides. But Ukrainian President Zelenskyy ruled out that possibility, as long as Russian soldiers remain on Ukrainian territory.
Let's get more on this from our correspondent, Privilege Musfanhiri, joining us live now from Harare. The war in Ukraine directly affects African countries in terms of energy prices and food security. So what are these African leaders offering as a solution for peace?
African leaders are proposing for de-escalation of this conflict to allow for peace negotiations and an end to this war. One of the proposals is for the lifting of sanctions on Russia, also the suspension of the ICC warrant of arrest on President Putin. But you find that these proposals are being put forward for African countries with their interest, to relieve the impact that this war has had on Africa. Whether this will be accepted, it's one question that we still lingers on.
Yeah, I mean, Ukraine's President Zelenskyy has ruled out peace talks as long as Russian troops are on Ukrainian soil. Is there really any hope for African leaders here to achieve progress?
It is early days. We cannot safely conclude that there is hope. Already, the rhetoric that is coming from the Kremlin and what President Putin said, even during the meeting with the African leaders, he was kind of pouring water on what they are proposing and kind of calling their plan as misguided. So it is a bit worrisome whether this will yield any results, the visit by the African leaders to Russia and Kiev, because already Russia is not taking their proposals or even what they are calling for seriously.
Yeah, so you've said these leaders are there representing their national interests. There have, of course, been divisions between African countries in their positioning toward the war in Ukraine. Is there unity on the African continent behind this particular mission?
There's been questions asked, seeing only 6 to 7 African countries pushing for this peace plan. Calls have been made to say that why is it 7 or just a handful of countries are pushing for this peace mission when there is the African Union observers are calling that why can't the African bloc come together as the African Union and push for this peace plan? Already there is the Russia-Africa summit that is coming in July. This could be a platform where African countries could speak with one voice for the end to this war, because many African countries are being affected. So it can't be that you only have a handful of African countries going to push for this peace mission and negotiate for the end to the war.
Well, thank you so much for bringing us up to speed there. That's DW correspondent Privilege Musfanhiri in Harare.